of my head, or am I like getting still in there?
You're fine like that right there.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to try to raise it up a little bit more, you could, but it's fine. Not a problem. All right. I think we're ready to rock and roll. So.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Alpha Outdoor Specialties. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world-famous Andy Shaver.
That's right, Alpha Outdoors. I'm just going to save my back. Hunting season starts this weekend, and I'm going to be in A-frames for the foreseeable future, so I'm going to be comfortable while doing it. So,
and before we start this, congratulations to the Texas Rangers,
That's right.
world champions.
That's right.
Now, if the Texas Longhorns will do this, it will be a great day, great year to be a Texan.
My grandfather he finally saw it, so he's happy.
Well, hopefully his Dallas Cowboys don't win. With us today, the international badass himself from Arlington, Texas, Mr. Jimmy Watson. Jimmy, how are you doing, sir?
Well, I'm doing really well. It's an honor to be on your show. I really appreciate you guys, what you do. And, I think that was I need to humble myself. The international thing. I told y'all to say that. So it's not really fair.
Well, I'm not going to argue with the former Navy SEAL ever anyways.
Okay. All right.
Now, when you first joined the military and you decided you wanted to be a Navy SEAL, how long were you in the Navy before that happened?
Well, no, how does it, because you were a Marine first.
Yeah. Yeah, my story is kind of confusing, but when I was a little kid, I was raised on a West Texas farm. I had a childhood boy dream of becoming a Navy SEAL, but I absolutely did not have what it took intelligence-wise, with the aptitude or the physicality and athleticism at the time. But I had this desire in my heart so bad, I would get angry at God because I thought, man, how could I have this like honey badger, not even lion heart, but honey badger heart, but just be so inadequate. and so I had to live with this for years, but I later realized in the SEAL teams that's exactly what they were looking for, is guys that sometimes don't have a dad, doesn't really matter, but just have been beat down, sled dogs. That's what they're looking for. People who've been beat down and fell over and over and over and then get back up again because mommy and daddy's not there clapping you over the finish line. So it was years before I was able to join the SEALs. In fact, I had to go to the Marines first, then Blackwater, and then eventually when my mind and my body was right after years of training, I was able to excel in the SEAL training. It was still very difficult.
How hard is it switching branches of the military? So going from being a Marine guy and then now all of a sudden you're in the Navy, do they accept you, or are you having to work even harder since you were a Marine first?
Well, I was terrified because I have United States Marine Corps tattooed all the way across my back. What is that, 36 letters or something? And I was thinking, and people were like, dude, you're going to the Navy, okay? And they're going to destroy you.
Yeah.
They're going to see this tattoo and destroy you. But I actually found out that during SEAL training, like one of the first days, you're standing there with just your UDTs on at the pool, on the pool deck, you're freezing, and they go around and just make fun of everybody's tattoos. And they were getting like, they went up to one guy, God will judge me, God will judge me. And he was like, and they were like, yeah, right, we're going to judge you, and they were seriously like hardcore about that. I was dreading and I was kind of shaking because they got to me and the guy was like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? Come here, dude. And I was like, oh, here it goes. Here comes the beat. And they actually asked me where I had been. And I told them, Helmand Province, in the Marines, south of Kandahar, all these different things. And then one of them recognized me from Blackwater. So I was in a really strange position. It didn't make my situation any better. Even if you're a brother of one of those guys, literal like blood brother, you could easily fail. And But for me, it was like this mutual respect. And he was like, well, don't step on my dick and I won't step on yours. And I was like, well, that's not going to be a problem with me, but whatever the case. So, there was a respect there,
Yeah.
Going through that.
And now in one of your videos, you said like day one, you're doing 1,000 burpees. That's how they start you off with.
Yeah. They like to set world records there on the first day.
Jesus.
And so, like,
how do you even prepare for that?
You can't prepare for that. It's the great equalizer. That's why like pro athletes, they try to recruit out of wrestling collegiate colleges. The water polo champions go there. Olympic swimmers have quit on the swims because it's all fun and games, tickles and pickles, like I said on my social media, until you actually get in the elements.
Yeah.
And that's the great equalizer of man. And that's how, no matter how strong you are, if you're under a log doing log PT for 3 hours straight, it totally levels the playing field for everybody. Everybody is suffering. Everybody's coming down like this the whole time, shaking, crying, and so it's the great equalizer. So no matter how good shape you are in, it's going to be a beat down.
And then how long is Buds?
Buds is, you have to consider each phase is 8 weeks long, but honestly, with 3 phases, if you were very fortunate and one of the weirdos, I wasn't, to pass with the original class, 7 out of 250 guys, well-able, capable guys, then it's about 8 months long. If you're burning through, but that's just to get your cartoon of Sammy the Seal and Freddy the Frog on a diploma-looking thing. You're like, are you serious? This is all I get? And then you cross over the street, and then you do another year. It takes a minimum of 2 years, over 2 years, to just get to an actual team. And that's a pretty serious, hardcore 2 years of your life.
So what made you want? So what happened in your life to where you're like, okay, I'm ready to be a SEAL now? Because you said you knew at first, like, okay, I'm not there yet. What changed?
Man, I was watching Finding Nemo with my niece, and I was drinking Jack Daniels, watching Finding Nemo, trying to spin trying to be a good example, and watching this Finding Nemo show, and I had just I got blasted by a grenade in my leg and my face and my head in Iraq, Baghdad, basically playing grenade tennis with the bad guys, insurgents in Blackwater. I had come home and I knew the window of opportunity was closing in my life to become a SEAL. And I had dreamed about this opportunity, and I hate to talk about SEALs all the time, but it's basically your proverbial SEAL team, like your proverbial dream. What is it that you want and are aspiring to do? And that door is closing all the time, whether people realize it or not. And it's so easy to say, well, I'll just do it next year.
Right.
Well, every 6 months or 8 months that went by, I always thought, I could have done the SEAL training again. I could have done it again, but I'm too chicken. I'm too scared to go after my own dream because, you fail SEAL training and it's kind of different than other places. You might have an opportunity to go somewhere else, but in the SEALs, man, you fail, you're going to a ship.
Right.
The repercussions are terrible, and that's the best recruiting tool that they have. So I was injured in Baghdad. They were giving me fentanyl. They were giving me, fentanyl patches, Vicodin, 150 at a time. It was just ridiculous, and not that I needed it after a period of time went by. And now I'm just abusing it. I'm drinking hardcore. I probably had serious PTSD, and I didn't even know it. I always thought that was an excuse for guys. It was lame, but then I was too tough. I was too macho at the time, right? And so I'm watching Finding Nemo, and I'm not even paying attention. I'm drowning in my own miseries, my own suck, whatever in life. And I'm watching this opportunity close for the SEAL teams at 26 years old now. But I'm pretty capable now, after years of just going at it and maturity and all that. And so I'm watching Finding Nemo. And at the very end of the movie, I'm sipping on this Jack in the corner here on my back and stuff. It says, keep moving forward in big letters on a black screen. And as cheesy as that cartoon is, you know, I don't know if Nemo or who else is trying to find their dad. Who cares? It's in a sea of dark abyss that you're swimming around, and the whole point is if you keep moving forward, you're eventually gonna accomplish your dream. But at that time, I wasn't moving forward at all, and maybe I thought I was, but I went straight to the toilet. I flushed all my pills down the toilet, got rid of everything, and dumped the jack. I probably drank all the jack. I'm not gonna lie, but I dumped it down the thing because I knew that's what it would take to accomplish my dream. And I was going up against Mount Everest. You know, I mentor a lot of guys and stuff from the SEAL program and special operations, and there ain't no excuse with me, man. Because I was going up Mount Everest just with the SEALs that's going up Mount Everest, but I was facing some Blackwater investigation with the Nisour Square, all kinds of just tremendously challenging things and threading the needle, so to speak. And but that was the defining point. And I'm just convinced in this life you have 3 or 4 major defining points in your life that you have to have some type of epiphany hit you in your life inside, and some kind of fire that just says, you know what? I don't care what happens. I don't care if I die trying. They're going to have to drag me off the beach, so to speak. And that's what it's going to take for me to go after my dream. And that was my dream. I don't know why, but it was my dream. And I wanted to serve my country. And so that's what I did after that point. So that was the defining point was finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo.
That's crazy.
That's right.
Who would have thought?
Okay, I've got a question for you. Tell everybody, explain what Blackwater is exactly. That's a CIA company, right?
Well, check it out. So people don't really realize this, but you know, when I got out of the Marines, I wanted to do the SEALs, and I actually embarrassingly failed the ASVAB test again. I was 1 point shy. I mean, I was walking out of the office, and I mean, this is back in the day. This is the wild, wild west of Blackwater. I mean, this is when they were barely known, okay? Created by Eric Prince. Eric Prince, you know, named Blackwater because he was a prior SEAL officer, and Blackwater means, you know, if you've ever seen a black, nasty harbor in the middle of the night, it's black. The water's black when you're diving. You can't even see your face in front of you. You can't even see your hand in front of your face. That's why I called it Blackwater. And it was created by Eric Prince with elite operators at the time. Later on, they lowered their hiring standards to raise their average, and we all know that never works out well. And so Blackwater, they started this company. I was fortunate enough to go to their vetting process. After 3 weeks of this hardcore vetting process, I was in class 15. They gave me the rank of GS-13, if you can imagine that, and a black diplomatic passport. And they said, when do you want to go? I said, right now. I ain't got nothing else. And so they put me on a one-way ticket from the Virginia International Airport right there, right from Moyock, North Carolina. And I went straight to Jordan after a layover in Germany, went straight to Amman, Jordan, with all these other civilian guys, not very many of us at the time. And then we were flown in a twin 80 Lacasa, something like that. And they spiraled down Baghdad, Iraq. It looked like hell. Plumes of smoke everywhere. We landed. Guys were throwing up because of the violence of he just took it from the very top of this twin engine flight all the way down, and we hit the ground. We jumped on the ground. Mortars were coming in. The guy said, "Stand up. Those aren't even close." We got up, you know, tucking our tail between our legs, and then we just hit the ground running. And we were doing like 8 missions a day out in the red zone, and then coming back and getting rocketed, you know, all the time. And it was crazy. But without those mercenary type guys, now I later did actual mercenary work. This is actually in support with Department of State diplomatic mission. But we did 8 missions a day, and it was absolutely crazy.
What kind of missions do y'all do?
Man, so I started out on Team 10 and Team 20, Team 10, Team 15, different teams like that, doing the actual personal protection of the diplomats. Basically, like strap hangers, or it could be anywhere from Condoleezza Rice, undersecretaries, to Dick Cheney, drug charge ministers, ambassadors in Kabul, Afghanistan. I helped start up a team in Kabul, but basically, we were in support of the diplomatic mission. Basically, they're sending these guys. Republicans, Democrats, it doesn't matter. All their assistants surrounding them look like you were walking in a pride festival at Berkeley. Like, it didn't matter. And I'm sorry, man. It was pretty shocking to me to see this. But the caliber of people, both Republicans and Democrats, were hanging around with was just shocking. Now, the Democrats were way worse, obviously. But it was kind of a shocking experience. But we were protecting them out in the red zone to go get coffee. So guys were dying every day so they could go do a photo shoot with someone in the red zone.
That's fucked up.
Now, later on, I went to the Red Cell, Quick Reaction Forces, and that was a lot more hairy. And that was actually in support of rescuing Marines, Army, anybody out there that was in major firefights.
So it's basically like, hey, we need a photo op here. Let's these guys are expendable. Make sure Condoleezza Rice doesn't die.
Exactly, and a lot of dudes died out there. Just as many operators in Blackwater died as the military, but it's just much easier to lose a combat veteran than it is a full-blown guy in the military,
right?
Serving as a soldier.
So tell me, like what happens? This Israel and Hamas that we've just recently seen, like, we could put an end to that if we really wanted to, right? Like, in a week.
Man, absolutely. In the SEALs, we have something called hunter-killer teams. And, just like I put on the social media the other day, the men with green faces, frogmen in Vietnam, I'll never forget an interview I heard. One of them said, hey, we won our war. Yeah, Vietnam was lost, but we as frogmen won our war in Vietnam. And I didn't understand what he was saying until years later. Our capabilities are so far beyond what a human being can really understand when it comes to unconventional warfare. I'm talking about tomahawk in hand, mohawk, crazy, perception is everything, violence of action, going in and taking care of business. But we're handcuffed now, and we're not allowed to do that. So to answer your question, on many different levels, we could stop this. In fact, I am absolutely convinced that Israel could have stopped Hamas before this attack ever came in. But they're so dang politically driven now that I'm convinced that they likely allowed this to happen, let it happen so that they could retaliate like they are now. In fact, when I was doing actual mercenary work in Nicaragua, in San Salvador, from Colombia, Medellin, I was working with a Mossad operator, a former Mossad guy. And I'll never forget, it's funny how these things come around now as I do this social media. But this Mossad operator said, that he was in Israel for years in their tier 1 units. I don't know what you'd call them, but they're very highest level units. And he said that they knew the exact locations of every single tunnel. He said that he showed me screenshots of it too. And he said they knew the exact locations of Hezbollah and Hamas leaders, their homes, where they lived. And I said, well, why don't they just smash them, bro? That's my mentality, right? And he was like, no. He goes, it actually works out better when they periodically tell them that they know where they live. They show them the grid coordinates of their house. They know these tunnels, because that keeps them in check without having to retaliate and cause collateral damage. Well, that obviously didn't work out very well. And now you're seeing what I'm saying is true, because their Israel's response directly after they were attacked was they somehow knew where the tunnels were and the leaders were.
Right.
So their direct response collaborates exactly what I'm telling you right now, is they knew all along where the caches were, where the top Hamas leaders are, where the tunnels are. They know all that stuff. But unfortunately with politics, we're so tied up in other people's emotions and how they feel that we really are not able to do what we really could. And that's actually win a war in a matter of days, months, rather than 2 decades.
That's interesting, because someone else this week told me the same thing, that Israel was in on it, on the original attack from Hamas, and they let it happen. And and the person told me, so there's a reason it's going on. Well, I was like, there's no fucking way. Then what you said makes sense, though. If they did let it happen, now they can go in there and just obliterate them, and it's all okay. If they'd have just done it for the day before it happened, it wouldn't have been okay.
Because you have to have the media on your side today.
Yep, and today it did. Okay, I got. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to caveat because then if they would have done that, Israel would be blamed for just totalitarian type of dictatorship, going in and destroying them for no reason. But all along, they know when a bird flies over their border. They know all this stuff. They're so sophisticated, and we are too. I can't even go into it very much. What I really know, that's very dangerous to do. But we're so sophisticated, so far beyond what people can imagine, that we know all of this stuff. America knows this stuff. That Israel knows this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Since we're talking about international politics, I'm going to ask you this. Supposedly, Putin has got videotape of America pulling all the gold out of tower. Was it number 7? Building 7.
Building 7 that fell by
Building
itself.
7 that fell by itself at 9/11. Is Russia got the same kind of intel that the United States does?
I'm absolutely convinced that Russia does, and make no mistake about it. Every time I see Putin on TV or anything, I get this terrible feeling, especially when people kind of boast arrogantly that, he's going to lose, Ukraine's winning. That the only reason why that's true, what you're saying right now in the present, is because he hasn't used his full arsenal. It's so obvious to me. Do people really think that this guy is going to walk away and just say, you know what, you're right, I just lost. I'm one of the most powerful men in the world. I don't want to leave a legacy behind. I'm going to go out like a coward, and now I'm just going to walk away from Ukraine? No way. It's crazy.
What do you think's really going on over there? Because, there's conflicting reports. It depends on kind of what side of the political aisle you're on. If you lean left, you think Ukraine is the victim here. And, there's another faction that thinks, maybe Ukraine is a bad actor in the world.
Look, whether or not Russia is absolutely terribly wrong in their decision to go to Ukraine, it should not be our problem whatsoever, especially the fact, and I'm not even into these conspiracies, but after a while, you'd be just an idiot not to see this stuff. Biden does this deal, this strange quid pro quo deal for Ukraine, and now we're defending Ukraine with all we got against Russia when Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in the entire world. I know multiple Russians that talk about this all the time, that they're just like, man, America is so fooled and duped, thinking that Ukraine is some kind of golden child here. And they could have easily settled out of court with Vladimir Putin on this, easily. Belinsky, whatever his name is, he could have easily prevented this. And it's crazy how these politicians often will use this guise of we're just trying to help, and all this stuff, when they could have stopped all this violence and craziness, and we should not be helping Ukraine. And I'll stand by that till the day I die. It's ludicrous.
I think it's all it's all money laundering, is what I think. For someone that don't have a fucking clue but just reads a lot, It's nothing more than the deep state, both Republicans and Democrats, funneling money back to their own pockets and using Ukraine as a deal. And Zelensky's got a bunch of trash on Obama and Biden and the Bush family, and he's using it against them to get a paycheck every month, a big paycheck.
That summarizes exactly what I was saying. Excellent. That's why you got the podcast, and I know. It's true. $100 billion. Look. I looked up the stats on this. 450-mile wall. Okay, and I wasn't a big proponent of the wall when Trump started talking about it. I think there's other ways to do this. You could do 2 or 3 different lines of defense on the Mexico side and American side to prevent all this crap. Once again, drones, all kinds of different stuff. But let's say go with the wall. $18.4 billion for 450 miles sounded like a ton of money. But now with millions of crossing over our border, we have our own invasion going on right now. And the hypocrisy for us to send over $100 billion in the defense of other invasions to other countries, aka Israel and Ukraine, is just out of this world wrong. When you think that we've sent $100 billion over there, and we literally have stopped all funding and all wall building on our own border of a Christian nation, is just ludicrous to me.
What about?
And it will be the demise of us.
Another question for you. Same person that told me that Israel was in on this Hamas deal so they could do what they wanted to do also told me that if we spend $14 billion to Israel, that we are just funneling money again, just like we are in Ukraine, because he said Israel is fighting a battle with someone that don't even own a tank, that we are overfunding this just to funnel money back to us. Do you believe that?
I absolutely. Follow the money. They vehemently went after my team in Blackwater. I was the team leader of the Nisour Square. And you look at the statistics after that, the death toll rate completely dropped off the face of the earth because they stopped sending, and I mean the death towards Americans drops off the face of the earth because they just stopped sending guys out in the red zone to get killed. But you look at that, and I heard through a documentary or whatever, and I really believe this because after you hear it multiple times, you got the Biden's extended families making construction, multi-million-dollar deals in construction of Iraq, of rebuilding Iraq. And so it's this massive money laundering scheme, okay? And then you have Biden under Obama, vice president under Obama, make a deal with President al-Maliki at the time, the Status of Armed Forces Agreement, to prosecute our contractors no matter what. Forget the Media Act and all that, but no matter what, prosecute them so he can get his deals done in Iraq. So I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a major money laundering scheme going to just cycling through all the different countries. I mean, why would you send billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine?
Yeah. No.
It's unaccounted for as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. So tell me about Nisour Square. What happened on that? You said you were investigated, Blackwater. There was an extensive investigation. What happened that they would hang you guys out to dry here?
Okay, what happened is that they give you rules of engagement before you go in, whether you're military or civilian, ROEs, rules of engagement. Our rules of engagement were if we feel like our life is in danger or threatened in any way, or our buddy next to us, or Department of State or government vehicles, property, then deadly force is authorized. Many times I gave a pass to the enemy, or many times I gave a pass to civilians because I knew that they just were bad drivers and they weren't paying attention. And so instead of destroying them, killing them, like I had every right to do with the ROEs, because they're coming directly at us in a speeding car, and that will vaporize you if it's a V-bit. But I knew from my experience there, a lot of times that these people were fighting. One time a guy and a woman was fighting and they had kids in the car. I had every right to destroy them, but I had absolute control of myself and followed the ROEs. Well, if you get in a firefight with heavy machine guns, 6.762 machine guns, belt-fed machine guns, in a super Walmart parking lot, at high noon, at the crowded time of Super Walmart, and on Christmas, let's get crazy, and you get in a big firefight with heavy machine guns on both sides, you're going to have chaos, you're going to have death, and that's what happens in these urban environments like Baghdad, a city with 4 million people in it. You're getting a firefight with heavy machine guns. Well, an unprecedented time in our life, I made a decision to go out there in support of a team that had just got attacked, that an explosion just happened. And so I was scrutinized for years for this, scrutinized by my own team members, all this stuff, hindsight 2020. But I don't regret ever going and helping and supporting another American in danger. And that's exactly what I did. I had the balls to do it. A lot of guys didn't have the balls to go out there. Anyways, I decided to go out there. We went out there, a major firefight happened, and then all chaos broke loose. And that was basically the end of Blackwater politically, because it was all over the news, how we were unprovoked, how all these civilians died, and civilian death is absolutely terrible. It's terrible, and people have no idea what it's like to live after war. War is no match for aftermath. And that's what I pinned on a napkin in one of the darkest times of my life. I even hugged myself in a mental hospital shortly after. So people have no freaking clue how bad war really is and the toll it takes on our guys. But don't fire at me as an enemy and use other people as human shields and expect me not to return fire in support of my own brothers.
So why would your own teammates criticize you about making this decision? You know, you were just helping your brothers over there.
If you can imagine this, brother, check this out. You're a team leader over there. You got to make split-second decisions. I was actually going off the call of my second in charge, who later died, but Corey Wainscott, he was highly skilled, and he said, "Hey, we need to go out there and support him." He says, "What do you want to do?" I made the decision. But if that decision is followed up by just absolute corrupt politicians, okay, going after you and your team, then they're going to want to blame somebody, even my own teammates. And I don't blame them. They went through hell. They put them through the ringer. Some of them went to prison, and so So I think a lot of them, they forget about the corruption behind the whole picture, how they were prosecuted by a corrupt prosecution, which I believe the case was dismissed at one point and then brought back up as Obama got reelected, and finally they smashed these guys and put them in prison. Of course, I'm going to take some heat. Some guys love me and are loyal to that cause, but others probably dislike me because, it goes back to the leader,
right. And Trump pardoned all these guys, right?
Trump pardoned them, but leaders make hard decisions. If I told you what you thought about this leader got a bunch of his guys killed at one point in his life, you would say that guy's a piece of crap. Maybe some people would. Well, that guy was George Washington later on, and I ain't no George Washington, but leaders make damn hard decisions at times.
I watched the movie, and it was a movie, The Thing on Benghazi, and it makes me so fucking pissed off that our politicians, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, left those guys out there. Chris Stevens, I really believe, knew that Obama and them were selling missiles under the CIA, I'm sure, and getting paid under it and playing both sides, and they got caught, and that's why they killed Chris Stevens. And I'm a firm believer in that. I may be wrong on that, but I think the Benghazi deal was big, major fuck up by our own government, mostly our politicians. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. I see all this. And the same names are behind all this stuff all the time. People are on fire right now on social media. But when people started like saying stuff about the FBI and about how there's corruption and conspiracies, this is something that I personally experienced and went through hell and saw other guys go through it 15 years ago. And so I was experiencing all this, and now I'm just kind of like, I told you so.
Right.
And I'll tell you, they can ruin your life. They don't have to put you in prison to ruin your life. And that's about what they did to mine. And it was hell for years. And I had to fight tooth and nail through the SEAL teams, and it just followed me because my testimony was not compatible with their truth. My truth wasn't compatible with their truth. And so they hated my testimony. But I stuck to what my truth was about the events of that day and about other things. And it was hard. Talk is cheap, man.
Right.
But when you get on that stand and you gotta stay with your truth no matter what. Even if you know that they're going to ruin your career and they told you they're going to ruin your career and go after you, hey, you gotta do it.
What's crazy is when people talk about Obama as a president, more people died under him than almost any other president, in history. He was a war machine guy.
Anybody, man, when I hear people talking about going to war, I am so against going to war at all costs. Because I understand when you go to war, you got to smash the enemy. I mean, smash them, really smash. So don't be talking about going to war. Don't be acting like a warrior. Don't be acting hard as nails as a politician when you weren't even saying nothing when Trump was in office. These Republicans and Democrats, a lot of them make me sick because there wasn't nobody saying nothing when Trump was doing the right thing. Look at Trump. Look at the difference. There was nothing going on as far as deaths, war, terrible decisions in Afghanistan, all this stuff when Trump was in. But Obama, I was in under Clinton, under Clinton, Bush, Obama, and Trump, so I know a little bit about unconventional and how conventional and unconventional warfare is done. Both as a contractor mercenary and as an infantryman 0311 and as a tier 1 special operator in the SEALs. It's my experience that the most craziest stuff is done and the most violence happens and the most death of civilians happens under democratic liberal presidents.
Talk to me about rules of engagement, because it's made up by a bunch of politicians that have never been over there. And that to me seems like the most backwards thing that you could ever imagine. You got guys that are thousands of miles away, never been in combat themselves. Most of them never even been in the military. And they're telling guys like you how you should fight a war.
I'll tell you what's worse than that is like guys like John McAfee, who were basically napalming villages in his jet. Then he goes to prisoner of war. Then the same guy, okay, this is the worst kind, is on national TV saying that America should prosecute these Blackwater guys to the full extent and put them in prison for life. That to me is disgusting. Is when somebody's actually experienced war and has done way worse than Nisour Square in one bombing run, and then he tells them then he's telling everybody to put these guys in prison. So I hate hypocrisy, man. I've been a hypocrite before, we all have, but to this level is outrageous. And so these rules of engagement are a great guideline, and if they're followed and you smash the enemy, and unfortunately collateral damage is done and you don't get prosecuted for it, then that's the right thing, because you're doing what you were told to do. You're doing what you were trained to do. And you're doing what the America's put millions of dollars of tax money into you. And now you're investigating SEALs like the NCIS, walking around measuring where they shoot and stuff. You literally handcuff the guys, and nobody wants to do it anymore. Right. Nobody wants to do it. The good SEALs I know, man, they bounce.
Yeah, like why would you want to put because you're one wrong shot away, or what they conceive to be a wrong shot away from your life just being totally ruined and upside down.
Yeah, for doing what you were told to do. It's extremely frustrating to all you want to do your whole life, and this is what I see most guys is all they want to do their whole life is go do something badass. They want to go serve their country. They want to go fight the enemy. They want to go protect our what we experience as children here. 4th of July, watermelon on the hot concrete, burning some fireworks off here and there, all these different things that you get to experience as a kid. You understand how I understood from the time I was little how important that was, and I was willing to exchange my life. So years later, after all the blood, sweat, and tears, you're painted as a monster. You are literally painted like an effing monster in everybody's eyes, a baby killer, a civilian killer, all this stuff, and all you ever wanted to do was protect innocent lives. And as a team leader in Blackwater, I used to send guys home for even talking strange or weird. It was very few and far between, but there was always a weirdo that was like, "Yeah, I want to kill somebody." You're out of here, bro. Window or out on the airplane. There's no time for that here.
Right. So how do you turn this off? You know what I mean? Like you're over there, you've seen some of the worst things in humanity, and then it's like, all right, well, come home and be a regular civilian. How do you? I can't even begin to imagine how you would flip that switch.
It was extremely hard to cook because back in the day, in the Roman Empire, you had guys, they walk home for a year long, and every night they're stopping at a campfire and they're decompressing and they're talking about what they did. Man, I threw that spear like 50 yards and slammed that guy. Yeah, whatever. Well, you're doing that for a year coming back home to Rome. Nowadays, in 3 short days or a couple of days of flights, you're back home. 2 days later, you just saw 4 Marines burn alive in a tank. And you can't even get close to the tank because it's so hot. And all you can do is pray to God a wind picks up and the tank burns hotter so their lives are ended quicker, because that's the mentality you have to have here. And now, 2 days later, I got to walk through the door, and my wife at the time is my little dog Tookie's on the table, misbehaving. She's slapping him and he's grabbing it, throwing it around crazy, and you're trying to keep it cool, and it's extremely hard, and it takes years of decompression, therapy, and then my life-changing moment where God literally saved me in Operation Restore Warrior at this beautiful duck reserve, hunting duck reserve in Baltimore. And when God actually met me, Jesus actually met me there. And I tell you what, man, I left there a new man. I really did. A lot of people talk like this, and I never had experienced it before, but I actually left a absolutely changed man inside and out. And that's what saved me.
Was a duck hunting retreat.
Was the duck hunting retreat. I didn't get to duck hunt there, but it was a retreat held by Operation Restore Warrior, and I wasn't expecting anything. I was on house arrest for a year and a half. I lived a crazy life, and I'm facing 15 years in prison, in connection with John McAfee. I know the story's crazy. We probably don't have
we'll get
time,
there.
but I'm on house arrest, and I think my life is over. And I cry out to God one of these nights. I have probably just tremendous amounts of PTSD going on, tremendous amounts of pain. And I mean, it's just a steamroll effect, right? And so I'm on house arrest. I'm facing 15 years for the connection with John McAfee. And it's over. But I cry out to God one night. And then the very next, I said, God, if you'll send me somewhere, I know I'm on house arrest and I know my life is over, pending trial. I know I'm going to prison for 15 years, but if you will send me anywhere, I'll go. And the very next morning, Operation Restore Warrior called me. They said, we just had a veteran drop off the list. would you go like right away I said, well, I'm on house arrest, man. He says, well, we don't judge people here. And so I went to the Texas judge, and he allowed me to get out for 3 days and go to Operation Restore Warrior in Baltimore at their place. And if there's veterans watching this out there, man, I want to tell you there's hope. And there's absolutely hope in Jesus and through God, because I went there. I thought, man, God had left the building in my life. I thought it was over for me. And by the time I left there in 3 days, my life was absolutely 100% changed. And that's not possible without God. And when I went home on house arrest, back on house arrest, I was living high. I was flying like an eagle over the Grand Canyon. And here I have R2-D2 strapped around my ankle, a modern day fetter chain. And my lawyer calls me and he says, Jimmy, I don't know how to tell you this, but your case is getting dismissed. And he said it was a 1 in 1,000 chance, and I've never seen this in my life. And I said, yeah, Jesus told me that already. He said, are you in a bar because you're supposed to be on house arrest? What the heck are you doing in a bar? I said, no, seriously. And he says, well, say a prayer for me, because your case is getting dismissed. And my life was changed after that.
So did you?
And I often remember that.
Were you? Did you have Jesus in your life at any time before this?
Yeah, my parents were like, pretty religious. They always told me to cry out to God in my worst times, and He would answer me. And it was true throughout my life. I just saw kind of miracle after miracle in my life. I mean, I made it through years of 13 combat deployments, years of war, super close calls all the time, and strange stuff happening to me. And just my life was kind of a walking, talking miracle. So I had no excuse personally not to believe that there was God, there was this man Jesus, but could He save me? No, because I was so far down the rabbit hole. I had gone off the deep end. I was hanging out with the wrong people, and in my life had turned into just to a freaking nightmare. And so I thought that, I was living in Medellin, Colombia. I was doing mercenary work, and I just felt like it was over for me.
Yeah.
But I was dead wrong. And I believe the only 2 reasons why I was saved was His infinite mercy and love for us. Not what you hear in the Catholic Church or in regular church, but not working for it. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to work for it or to earn your way in. All you have to do is believe in Him and believe that He actually loves and cares for you. And I'll tell you what, I almost get teared up right now. That I didn't think that I could be loved in this life. And man, it was a shocking and eye-opening experience to receive that from God, His love, and to get a second chance in life.
So what's it like your first time in combat? I mean, are you you've gone through all the training, you've done everything, you're prepared, but then all of a sudden bullets are flying around you. You start hearing them behind you. You got close calls, like you said. I mean, do you have shit in your drawers the first couple of times, or are you like, no, this is what I'm here to do?
No, I was a badass, man. I never got scared of nothing. All right, yeah. So this is a great question, and I've studied this, and I've experienced it myself, and this is so important. I do not believe that you are born with a warrior type, like it's all learned. It's all, it can only take a one little split second experience where you witness somebody do something heroic, and now you're pissing your pants, like you just said. Like my first firefight, my first real firefight, where we were like fish in a barrel, and these guys just came up on this roof and just sprayed us in an alley. And if you can imagine, it was my first experience in a firefight, and I had a sawed-off belt-fed machine gun 5.56 with a nutsack on it, 100 rounds, and I literally, instead of just being a Rambo, I threw it. I just left my body. and fear overcame me. And I jumped on the ground, and this thing's on the Hummer seat in front of me. I can't even reach it. I'm like this coward. But then I saw this ex-SEAL dude immediately stand up with his and just shoulder fire, walking down the street by himself. And I'm like, dang, I will never, ever do that again. And from that moment on, I got awards in Blackwater. I got a lot of different accolades and stuff for being a hero, but really it was not something that came natural to me. It was something that I had to witness first. And that's why it's so important that we have leaders now that are doing real, no joke life, integrity, things of integrity, and leading the way, so we can see that and say, okay, that's what I want to be like.
Right. Yeah, you'd have to be a fucking weirdo for that to come natural to you. Like, you'd have to be a little bit psychotic.
You have to be a freaking weirdo, man. And there's some freaking weirdos out there, but they might be psychotic too.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a fine line.
I mean,
It's a fine line,
It's a fine line. It's a fine line. I mean, I saw guys, the first couple times we were rocketed, I saw a guy, instead of jumping on the ground, we're talking about Iranian Russian made, 74 millimeter telephone pole rockets screech and smash through the air, hitting trees, hitting right next to you, decapitate somebody in front of you, like literally decapitate you. And these guys, I saw guys, one guy particularly with a medical bag he always carried around, and he would run into the explosion.
Whoa.
And here I am laying on the ground, like shaking. You can't get any closer to the ground. And this guy runs into the smoke. And I remember jumping up hesitantly and following this guy, going, where is he going? And he would run into the explosions to go help people that were hurt. And so this is what I developed. And I noticed a lot of guys followed me doing this. And I'm sure a lot of guys follow them. And pretty soon you got a whole army running towards the smoke, running into the fire, doing heroic things. It's lead by example.
Yeah. How many of these like intense firefights do you go through to where you finally have the confidence to, like you said, be the leader that other people need to see?
I think it only takes one, brother.
One?
I really do. It's you forge through fire, and it's quick. And it only takes about one of these firefights before you either got it or you don't. And if you don't got it, you got to leave, because you're going to get somebody killed. And that's kind of my mentality. But I think one firefight, one experience that like I went through, will change you, especially if you act in a very cowardly way,
How many guys are honest enough with themselves to be like, okay, this is not for me?
I saw guys that were super honest with themselves, and I love that. I think it's an incredible trait of a guy to admit, be vulnerable, say, this is not for me. Like, the SEALs is not for me. Okay, great. You're smarter than me, because I thought it was for me. It was brutal. You lose your toenails after like 6 months in your feet in a bathtub water, I mean, you're going to pay, skin grafts on your thighs. Like, you're going to pay hard. And to want that in your life is, to me is kind of stupid,
Right.
And I went down that route. So I would think anybody that is vulnerable enough and realistic and really brutally honest, like, first of all, who am I trying to impress here?
Right.
Like, I mean, when you look at my career path, Marines, Blackwater, SEALs, I really just think of a guy that was trying to impress somebody and get validation. But you learn later on in life that there's no person, place, or thing can validate you. But God.
How far do you think that y'all have to run during SEALs training? Is there like a mile is there a mile that they try to get you to, or is it all different?
You run. Okay, so you run 250 miles, they say, with a massive boat slapping on your head that scalps you, and you look like Bozo the Clown afterwards. You do that for you do 250 miles in 1 week.
Oh my goodness.
In Hell Week.
Oh my goodness. And that's no sleep.
No sleep. You have 40 minutes of sleep, but some guys are walking around talking in their shoes, man. It's bad, bro. Your hands swell up like the blimp man. Your face swells up. Your body, your legs are like this big. They're holding water, and your feet start splitting.
Oh my God.
Afterwards. And when you stop Hellweek, man, you're just done, bro. You are so done. But it's weird. A switch has to go off in your head during that time to be able to make it that whole week. Because no matter how hard, strong you are, you can't make it unless that switch goes off around day 3.
Day 3 is the time that switch better go off.
It better go off. If it don't go off, you're not going to make it. If it does not go off, you will quit. You will quit, but it has to go off. And the switch, I believe this switch is in every man, and it will go off. It will go off when it's ready to go off, not when you're ready for it to go off. Because because right at the point where you can't possibly take. Can I tell a story about this situation?
I'd love for you to.
All right, when I went to SEAL delivery vehicle, okay, I had already done the land side, and so SEAL delivery vehicle and the SEAL teams is it's pretty classified, but it's an all volunteer unit, and you just dive and dive and dive because you're doing so critically special missions. Okay, now when we got there, you hear these horror stories about how bad the SDV is. It's like the Black Widow. They call it the Black Widow. It's like, it's only so big, and you cram these guys in there, and they're not small guys, and all your gear, and it's a submersible sub. It fills with water. It fills completely with water. You're on your dragger, and something goes wrong in there, you die. You have a malfunction, you die. There's no bolting out. There's nothing like that. And it's the most claustrophobic that you could possibly imagine, because not only are you in a super tight compartment and you can't even move your arms, your arms still numb because somebody's laying on them, but you're also breathing on a dragger and through a hot air bag. It's not like you're in Cancun, tickles and pickles under the water and drinking margaritas and, this is fun, compressed air, cold compressed air. No, it's a dragger. It's a LAR-5. It's just a bag of air. You can't hear yourself. You're breathing in a hot air bag. And now you're upside down, and then water's flooding your mask, and water's leaking, and it's pretty freaking scary when your mask is leaking water and filling up like this, and you keep having to hit the button and bring it down. It's a freaking nightmare. My point is when I got there, a real seasoned operator that had been there for 6 years, and that was forever in STV. And a SEAL came over. He looked like a homeless man. He had a big old dip in. And he looked just like a homeless man. In fact, some people thought he was homeless when they went to Thailand on deployment with him. They literally put a pizza box on his head, and he ended up being Matt Leathers. But Matt Leathers, he ended up passing away. He actually drowned, but they couldn't find him. But before that, he came over to us, and I was a brand new guy just checking in. And he said, he walked by us, and he goes, "Y'all want to know what it's like being in the back of the SDV?" And we were like, "Brilliant. That is the most brilliant question I've ever heard in my life." Of course, that was the one looming question. And he says, well, the only thing that matters is time. And he pointed to his watch. And I was thinking, that's right. That's the only thing that matters in the SEALs is time. How long is this beatdown going to last? How long is this nightmare, this evolution going to last? How long is this transit underwater in this SEAL delivery vehicle? How long is this going to last? That's all that matters. Because you're going to be in there for a certain time. And he says, the only thing that matters is time. He says, right when and he goes, you want to know how to tell time? Because you can't pick up your watch and look at it. It's too black in there. It's your pin. And you're freezing cold. You're shaking. And he says, the only way that you can tell time is when you feel like you cannot, the only way you can tell where you are at in the dive is when you don't think you can possibly make it one more second in this life. When you're about to bolt out of the SCV, when you're about to kill everybody by doing so, rip off your mask, you're about to freak out. He goes, at that very moment, he leaned in and he says, you are approximately halfway done.
Whew.
And we're like, what have I done? What have I done?
And this is
But he was volunteer. But his point was, and my point in all this is, the switch has got to go off. And right when you think that you possibly can't take one more second in this life, you're about halfway done. You could do double. You could do double that. You know?
So he was killed in a diving accident. Matt Leathers was.
Yeah, real unfortunate. They were diving out there in middle of the day, and he came up missing, and on a dive, on a very easy day dive. Easy in the SEALs, it's not easy, but in the SEAL teams, it's considered easy. But they were all out there during the day. Everybody came up like normal, and Matt Leathers was missing. And it was the largest manhunt. It was the largest search for someone missing since, even larger than Eddie would go. Eddie, the surfer in Hawaii. And it was in Hawaii, and we searched for him for 2 weeks with every asset possible. And Matt Leathers was like a white David Goggins, like he's just a supernatural athlete. Would run almost a marathon a night and drink a bottle of vodka afterwards. Just like a crazy man. People don't believe that, but that's what he did. And he was just a superior athlete, and just such a beloved SEAL teammate. And he ended up missing, and they never found him. Never found anything. Just never found him.
What do you think might have gone wrong?
Well, there's only a couple things that could happen. A massive shark, comes and just railroads you, which is possible, I guess, in theory, out there in Hawaii. But there's also a shelf, a shelf that it's shallow, it's beautiful, clear water, and then a shelf that just goes down 1,000 feet or whatever. Don't quote me on that, but it's deep, And I think his last words were, "Man, my weight belt's heavy. My weight belt's heavy." And so I think that something happened with his rig or his breath hold, whatever the case. I won't get into the details, but I think that he passed out underwater. I had passed out underwater before. It's kind of scary, but not that uncommon. And nobody was there to see him when he passed out. And so he kind of rolled off that shelf, and the currents took him, and then kept being drugged under the deep, dark ocean for God only knows how long, and who knows what happened with him.
When you see guys like him that are natural athletes, and you've already said like you were not natural at anything, you just had this "I'm not going to quit" attitude. Does that drive you insane? Because you're like, dude, like you're doing this and it doesn't even look like you're breaking a sweat.
Yeah. We all have our different attributes about us. I was kind of that honey badger attitude, heart. It really helped me in my life. Like it was what I needed. I think if I was a superior athlete like Matt Leathers or some of the guys I knew, then I wouldn't have gone to the SEALs, because I just I wouldn't. My mentality was like, go for the hardest thing possible and the least likely thing that I could do, because I needed a lot of work, a lot of maturity, in my life and my body, and everyone's different, but I think it was my disabilities that created ability and became my ability,
right.
Later on in life.
Yeah. I'm looking at a picture of him running, and like, you are what I envision a SEAL looking like, fucking jacked, but like he just looks like a marathon runner. You saw the guy in the street, you wouldn't think anything about him.
Super skinny guy. Some SEALs, they're lawyers before they go in. They have degrees. Some are just straight off the street, GED. Some guys are super intellectual. Other guys, you got to be a smart cat, but not that smart. But you got to be they're just looking for just certain individuals that they're problem solvers. They don't give up no matter what. And if that's a 150-pound guy, if that's a 5'4" guy, if that's a 6'5" guy that plays like Irby, who unfortunately passed away, but who was with who played with Tebow with the Florida Gators. I think that's who he played with, whatever. If that's him, like a linebacker, it's the range is so different, you know.
Well, and I mean, you got to be able to swim a long, long way. So, you know, in theory, a muscle-bound guy, you know, probably is not the most the best body type to be swimming these long distances.
No, it's so stupid to go into SEAL training or that kind of thing with muscle. I came in there pretty heavy. I was like 230 pounds. They called me the USS Watson while I was swimming through the water. It was a nightmare. I literally was like a tugboat going through the water. Just get out of my way. It wasn't because I was an asshole. It was just because, dude, I had to pass the swim, and I couldn't afford to veer off. I had to plow right through you because, dude, it's just how it is. And but the more muscle, the worse it is in these environments. I mean, it's really it makes your life extremely difficult. In fact, when I was going through BUD/S preparatory, before BUD/S, you go through another course. And the instructor came in, one of the SEALs, he said, "Where's Watson? USS Watson, stand up." And I stood up, and I was like, "Oh, man, what now?" And he's like, "Hey, I heard about your past, like with the Marines and stuff in Blackwater." He goes, I hope you may. I wish we were on the same team together someday, but we won't be because you're not going to make it." He goes, "Sit down." And I said, "Okay." And because they just were not used to guys with muscle or bigger guys making it, you know. And it definitely doesn't have its perks.
Now, you were a sniper with the SEALs team?
I was an NSW sniper, Naval Special Warfare sniper.
So what's the mentality like when you see guys like Chris Kyle, you know, because they're with the SEALs team, some of the guys that I've talked to, they're very private about everything, and everything's kind of supposed to be taken to the grave. So when Chris Kyle writes this book, what was your attitude towards it?
You know, during that time, you had Marcus Luttrell, Lone Survivor. You had Chris Kyle. You have all these books come out and stuff. And look, I'm married to a Russian girl. Okay, these girls, they had like 450, 500 kills in the Russian war. All right, who knows? My wife may have the same amount of kills. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is these girls are hardcore shooting dudes in Stalingrad in War II, Germans, at, 400, 500 confirmed kills in ice cold conditions with iron sights. So that being said, there are some super badass snipers that never get mentioned. Chris Kyle's spotter, I heard, was an incredible shot. And then there's the operators that decide to speak about it. Maybe kind of ride the wave, whether they intend to or not. You know, never a big fan of Robert O'Neill saying that he was the only one that killed Osama bin Laden, and he recanted his story along the way. But it's the team. It's called the teams. Oh, you in the teams? Oh, me too. Yeah, it's the SEAL teams. And, for every guy claiming that they were badass out there, you have literally 1,000 people that were holding them up in the air,
right.
Like they're supporting. And what about the pilots that got them to the compound to kill Osama bin Laden, a 90-year-old on dialysis? So for me, I got mixed feelings about it. I talk about the SEALs on my social media platform, so I can't be a hypocrite, right. It was most of my adult life, so it's touchy. I mean, Chris Kyle was a solid, humble American badass in my eyes, and I'll never want to take away from that, from American hero. But there's a lot of heroes out there that need to be lifted up, and I'm not one of them, by the way.
Yeah, that Rob O'Neill story, it's weird because, like, if you see some of his early interviews, like, it's not the same story. His story changed often.
Man, my buddy was on the same SEAL team as that went in and got Osama bin Laden, and they were not happy about this situation. Okay, they were extremely not happy about Robert O'Neill claiming to do this all on his own. in by not giving credit to others, you're claiming that you did it on your own.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be a right out like I am the only, but it pretty much was. Whatever the case. When my buddy was overseas, it was one of the operators' turn every single night with the satellite phone to call Robert O'Neill on his personal cell phone at his house and tell him what they really thought about it. And it was not pretty. It was really, really, foot stomp. This is on the test. Bad. And so, once again, I guess the guy, he probably really super enjoyed the fact that he was able to kill Osama bin Laden when in fact his buddy shot him probably at the same time, and in the SEALs, it's the least hardest thing to do is what he did, pull the actual trigger. It's the least hardest thing to do. So it's kind of like, it's kind of braggadocious and not looked at.
I got a question on that. Why would we have not have been better off to have taken bin Laden alive? And my second follow up to that is, why did we do a burial at sea? Because honestly, a lot of people don't believe a damn thing the government tells us anyways, if they really shot him or not.
I hear what you're saying. If he's not dead, then I've obviously been duped along with many people as well. And I don't say that facetiously. I agree with you on that. I think that there's a huge chance that maybe there's a chance that he wasn't killed, man. Because when you have it's like John McAfee when I was with him, and they said he's dead. But there's no pictures of him. Come on, they have pictures of John F. Kennedy, Marilyn Monroe, everybody in the world when they die, but they don't have certain pictures of certain individuals to confirm it. Not that a picture could confirm anything these days, but so the burial at sea and all that kind of stuff is kind of hard to wrap my head around too. So I'm with you on that.
I can't buy that. Let's before we get into the McAfee deal, I want to talk about Epstein for a minute, because there's a guy that was an enemy of the deep state. He had secrets on everybody. We have arrested the lady that's his partner. We arrested him, but we have yet to arrest one person who was buying underage girls. Now, what's more heinous, selling a child or buying a child? Both are horrible. But why is only one person getting arrested or two, and we're not arresting any of the Johns? That to me throws up a huge red flag.
It's a huge red flag. I worked for Saved in America. When I got out of the SEALs, it was another brotherhood to go to. It was all former SEALs working in Saved in America, and they obviously made the documentary that I was in Contraland. All that stuff. It was anti-sex trafficking, and I learned while I was doing these operations in San Diego County alone against the drug cartels. It's an $800 million industry a year. You could set up a sting operation, and there could be a revolving door of Johns endlessly going to these little girls. These decoys to get busted, and so I believe, brother, that it is so rampantly corrupt up in DC at the highest levels. I believe that there are sex trafficking rings going on. I believe that there is. These sex trafficking rings are known, and I believe that there's major politicians dabbling in it and actually participating in it. Whether they're not doing anything about it is participation, or because they know about it, or they're actually participating in it on their own, on a one-on-one session. And that to me is absolutely, and that, man, that's why I fear for America now. I really fear for us in so many ways. It's like happening on all fronts.
Yeah,
trying to take your weapons away, border, sex trafficking, and it's all evil, and we're not doing anything about it.
We've got a ex-president, Bill Clinton, that went to Epstein Island 26 times. That's verified. That's not counting the times he went there that's not verified. I think there's many of those trips he declined and waved off his Secret Service entourage. 26 times.
Oh, sure.
To a known sex trafficking. I mean, it's not like this as well. That's just hearsay. There ain't no hearsay about it. Epstein got arrested for the shit. And then Gazelle or whatever her name is, she's locked up for it right now. And we have a president that went there 26 times, but yet we don't ever ask questions about that to him or to his family or to the Democratic Party or to the other hundreds of politicians on both sides of the aisle, Tom Hanks, all the actors that have been there. We just give them a free pass. But the same party that gives them a free pass are the people that are complaining about women's rights. They also don't fight when men compete against women and beat them in sports. It's just crazy how we are so hypocritical about shit when it comes to women and sex and these kids and this trafficking, and we absolutely have done nothing about it. Nothing at all.
I try to compartmentalize things in two different categories, good and evil. And only when I do that, I'm able to make sense of the whole thing. Otherwise, it's just absolute chaos, confusion. I get angry at the TV. I get, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? But when I say there's only two categories, good and evil. And the evil, for now, is allowed to continue on. And the good is persecuted, prosecuted, witch hunted, burned at the stake. That's my mentality, and because that's the only way I can make sense of stuff like just blatant 26, 27 times, one time to Epstein Island, with this stuff, when we know crazy things were happening. I mean, look, when I first started working for John McAfee, he told me, if you remember, it looked like Hillary Clinton was going to win. Trump all of a sudden just wins out of nowhere. People forget that. And when he did, I was hired right on with John McAfee. And John McAfee said, man. He goes, I was terrified, Jimmy. And I was like, why is that, sir? He goes, man, I had all my bags packed, and I was literally going to leave the country the very night that Hillary got elected because I knew it was over for me. And I said, sir, why would it be over for you, John? Mr. McAfee? Never called him John. Mr. McAfee. And he said, son, he says, I have so many terabytes or whatever, however much information on Hillary Clinton, and he named two other people I can't even name here. I can't even say their freaking names right now. But two other people, I literally can't say their names because of the situation I've been in and the persecution I've dealt with on two different times with the three-letter agencies on two different things. And it's like, come on, man. And so John McAfee said that he had this information, and I didn't believe him at first, but then as we went along, everything he ever said came true, and it was even the most outrageous things that you could think of were happening. And he said people were after him, and as a personal protection from the SEAL teams, coming to this guy, I'm going to believe you if you say an alien got you, because if an alien gets you, and I slacked on my end, I'm going to be the laughing stock. I'm going to be the ass now, right? Well, so I believed everything he said, and that's one reason why he kept me, because he realized that I was taking him serious. And one of the things he said to me, I'll never forget, he said, Jimmy, who's the most feared man on the battlefield? And I said, I don't know. And he said, it's the oldest man. And he looked at me with those cold, steel blue eyes, and I'll never forget that he was dead freaking serious. And he was saying that I am the most feared guy on the battlefield because I'm the oldest. And I've been through a ton, and I know shit that would blow your freaking mind. And I just took that in, and it's in the crazy year that I was with him, a lot of things came true. And he said that he had multiple hard drives of just absolute evidence of corruption on Hillary Clinton. And then we found the guy hung. John McAfee, unfortunately, was hung in a Spanish prison, and he killed himself. A guy full of life, a sensationalist, a guy that thrived off media attention, that was about to be extradited to America for his trial. This guy doesn't kill himself, but he's found in his prison cell.
So you think he was Epsteined?
I just can't imagine John McAfee killing himself. Is it possible? Yes, but after being in prison myself, it's just not hard to kill somebody in that manner. I was amazed at what I saw in prison. I was like, geez, what a scary place. And so I think that he was Epstein. I do. As crazy as that sounds.
Because look, crazy at all. I mean, you look at the whole Epstein thing, and I mean, he's got all these billionaires by the balls, basically,
and add Hillary Clinton's name on it
because allegedly Epstein had cameras, all over the island, and all of a sudden the cameras go out the night that he hangs himself.
First of all, before we get into Epstein, real quick, Epstein was a CIA. That was all a whole separate corporation set up by the CIA to blackmail people.
Think so?
I believe wholeheartedly.
You're going House of Cards here.
That his whole work of life was a charade. He was propped up. He got into all these rich billionaires' pockets. They used him as a front. He blackmailed actors, actresses, politicians, so the CIA could have a leverage on everyone. But they didn't have leverage on one person, and that was Donald Trump. But everybody else that's up there from Obama and everybody else is under CIA control. I really believe that. I think that Chief Justice John Roberts, I believe that he was blackmailed on the Obamacare. He was all against it, and then the next day he voted for it. I think they probably have something on one of his kids or his family members, and I think that's the way they operate. And I think that's what Epstein was doing, was he was more of a front. But if John McAfee had something on Hillary Clinton, that's exactly what happened to him.
He had tons of information on her and two others, that are seriously high up right now in the Department of Justice, and it was kind of crazy because I could relate to him in a way when he was talking like this because I had been through my own small thing compared to him, like where I saw the corruption firsthand, and so I related to him like that, and so here he is. In a Spanish prison, what? For not doing taxes? He paid $180. He said, Jimmy, I paid $180 million in taxes. I'm not paying anymore. So I figured he paid his dues, right? But whatever, you got to pay your taxes, or they come Al Capone you. You got to pay your taxes. I believe in paying taxes. But here he is in a Spanish dungeon or a Spanish prison. Might as well be a dungeon. He loses his extraditionary judgment. So basically what that means is, and I've been in a federal penitentiary. I shared a cell with the Tiger King. For
Did you really?
Right? Now check it out. I know there's a lot to my story. Whatever. It doesn't matter. That's besides the point, okay? But here he's sitting in a Spanish prison. And you find out that and trust me, I was in federal penitentiary. If I have a guard come over to my cell and say, Jimmy, wake up. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, hey, you're leaving tomorrow. You're getting transferred out of this prison. I don't care if it's to another prison. I don't care if it's to the Porter John. I'm throwing a party. I'm so excited to leave that area, to leave that little cell to another environment, especially if it's back to America, where now I can have a chance to be on the media, talk my trash, win my case, possibly fight these guys. But imagine John McAfee. He's been sitting in the Spanish prison for a year at that point. They come in and say, hey, John, you're getting moved tomorrow back to America. Get your stuff ready. They come back in an hour later and you've hung yourself?
Yeah. Doesn't make sense.
You don't do that.
So what was it like working with him or working for him? I mean, I've seen the documentaries. He seems like an odd character, but I mean, and he's super brilliant. That's the thing. Intellectually, he's on another wavelength.
Another level. He could basically read your mind, He basically could read your mind. It was absolute terrifying. I think there's only one guy like that born like kind of the Mark Twain of his generation. There's only one guy born like this every once in a while, and they're operating on another plane. Good, evil, supernatural, magical, whatever you want to call it, it's on another level. Like when he looks at you and speaks, you stare at him back, and because he might read your mind and say, "Why'd you just think that about me?" You're like, "Oh, And so, he was a genius of his time. The McAfee antivirus that he created was the least of the things that he's done. He was a big proponent and help in creating what we now know as instant messenger and all these different things. My point is he was brilliant and a mathematician, and it was an incredible experience working with him. He took me in like a son, and just taught me everything that I could. Not that he knew, it's not possible, but taught me everything that about business, like it was like a fire hose of information that he taught me over the period of a year. And then I eventually was running his company, and it was a great time while it lasted, but it was really chaotic. He was extremely paranoid. And the documentary that you see out there just does not show him as the man that I knew him. The documentary, if you notice, is not at the premier time of his life. It shows you some split reels of him in Belize and him escaping Belize. Now, that was right before I came on board with him. It does not show the year or two that I was with him when he was doing awesome. But it does show you right after the time I was with him, and it shows him just as like this drugged out, crazy lunatic man. And it really does a disingenuous service to him, I believe. That's my own personal view.
So how does he find you? Is there like a directory like John Wick, like, Jimmy Watson, let me get this guy?
I'm like John Wick, bro. I got a secret number and all this stuff. Okay, not really. Well, my buddy who's a SEAL, I had just got, hey, be quiet, man. My little dog's going crazy. Sorry about that. My buddy calls me from the SEALs, and he goes, "Yo, bro," and I'm like, "What's up, man?" And he's like, "Hey, you ever heard of John McAfee?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Check your computer screen, man." And I was like, "Okay, McAfee antivirus, got it. Why?" He goes, "Well, he's gonna call you because he said he wants the best SEAL out there to come protect him immediately." Well, I wasn't the best SEAL. It was timing. I had just got out of the teams, just retired, and so here I am at my house in Valley Center, California. And so John McAfee just calls me on my cell phone, and he's like, "You know who this is?" And I'm like, "Yes, I think so." John McAfee. He's like, "That's right, boy." And I'm like, "Okay, it's gonna be like that. Okay, I'm a boy now. Okay." And he's like, "How much you charge?" And I said, "Well, $500 to $1,000 a day, depending on the threat." And he says, and I could tell he spit out his scotch, because that's all he ever drank. He didn't drink water.
Just scotch.
He spit. He's scotch, man, straight up scotch, no water ever. He said there was plenty of water in the scotch he was drinking. And he spit his drink out on the other end of the phone. He said, "I only pay my Green Berets $250 a day." And I don't know what got in me, because I would have done it for $15, man. I needed work. But I just threw that number out there, $500, $1,000 a day. And he said, he said, I only pay my Green Berets $250. And I said, "Well, it's your life, sir." And I was bluffing, man. and I didn't know John McAfee at the time, but this guy doesn't lose negotiations. But it was his life.
Right.
It was his life. He was thinking, and so he says, "Okay, but you got to come here now." And I said, "What do you mean now? I'm in California. You're in Lexington, Tennessee, a dump of a place." Because he was just a paranoid guy. He wanted to be there, away from the Caribbean. And so I left that night and went on Mr. Toad's wild ride after that, man. It was crazy for a year.
What I mean, dealing with somebody that is that paranoid and has that level of paranoia, I mean, is that a hard thing for you to be like, no, Mr. McAfee, like, we've got this all taken care of. They're not coming to get you today. He was testing me. He's a brilliant man, and he had learned to not trust anyone in this world. And he was testing me all the time. In fact, one of the first nights of just this sheer paranoia,
he was like, Jimmy, wake up and wake up, red alert everybody. And all the guards were up and we were staring out the windows. And I could tell these guards did this all the time with him. And I was like, I don't know if I can be here, man. I don't know if I can do this 24 hours a day. This guy's out of control. He stays up all day and then he's scared all night that they're coming to get him, right? Bullet holes in the ceiling and stuff. And so I'm sitting there one day and he comes over to the window and he goes, Jimmy, do you see that right there? And all of his guards were like, yeah, I see that. I see what he's talking about. You know, this person looking at me. And he showed me and he said, do you see it, boy? Do you see it, boy? And I'm like, sir, why are you calling me boy? No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, you call me boy, whatever. And I'm like, no, I don't, sir. And I had to be brutally honest. And he goes, you don't see that? He goes, everybody else sees it. You don't see it? And I'm like, I'm fired. You know, here it goes, because I'm not playing the game. I said, I don't see it. No, sir, I don't see it. I believe you, but I don't see it. And he says, well, damn it, I know it's there, you know. And the next day he came over and he goes, you know, son, there was nothing out there, right?
Right.
And I was like,
he was testing everybody.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, you know, that moment of like truth, like this guy is next level, you know, next level. And so I knew not, and I just took him serious. And I think that's one reason why I stayed with him for so long, considering the circumstances.
You know, I listened to a lot of Dr. Peterson, Jordan Peterson, and one thing he says about Hollywood and stardom is the reason they spin out is because they don't have anybody in their life anymore that can tell them the truth. They get all these, they surround their whole entourage as people that don't want to upset the apple cart because they don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. And for you to be the guy that was like, no, sir, there's nothing out there. Like, he needed that voice of reason in his life because he's got all these other people that, hey, John McAfee, it's a cush gig right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like one of his guards, man, you just hit on the head with this, man. It's like they completely lose touch with reality because no one will tell them the truth anymore. And I think that's how it gets so corrupt and so out of hand is these guys start doing weird Epstein stuff because they lose complete touch with reality and everybody's saying it's okay all the time around them. You know, I remember one of the guards came up to me. One of the guards was sitting with me at the bank. John McAfee was going to the bank all the time. He hated banks, but he was going there to pull cash out all the time. He'd pull out all kinds of cash all the time. And one day he's in the bank, and the guard's sitting with me, and the guard looks over at me, and he says, Jimmy, I just want to let you know, man. He goes, if the old man kicks it, if he dies, he goes, there's $1 million cash underneath the sink.
Holy
he goes,
shit.
We don't call the cops. We don't call the cops. We just no matter what, if he dies, one of us goes under and gets that money, $1 million under the sink, and then we'll stash it. And I'm going, bro, what are you talking about, bro? Like, and I'm like, are you serious right now? And he's like, I'm dead serious. And I was like, hey man, I didn't hear that, man. I ain't down with that. And I later told McAfee about this. I was like, dude, you got guys that are plotting on you, you know, for this $1 million cash, whether it's under your sink or not, I don't care. And so who can you trust? You know?
Yeah.
People just take advantage of you. This world's full of scumbags. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's true. Especially when there's money involved.
Yeah, especially money at that level.
Now, were you with him in the Caribbean ever?
No, I traveled all around the world with him, Spain, Thailand, did a bunch of crazy stuff, hung out with Russian oligarchs, all kinds of stuff. But at Ibiza, Spain, every helicopters, boats, yachts, super yachts. But I never was in Belize with him. That was right before me. He had just came back to America, escaped the whole murder charges, escapade thing in Belize.
That's when the girl was pooping on him, right? Wasn't that him?
I think so.
I'm asking this question. Everybody know about him.
Jimmy's like, I wasn't there for that part.
But he was getting shit on. He was paying that for girls to shit on him, right?
I wasn't there.
Listen. That documentary was on one day, and John McAfee came out of his room and he stopped and he watched like the entire documentary, and afterwards he said, "Damn, that was a crazy documentary." He said, "Who was that about, son, boy?" And I was like, "Sir, I was like, that was about you. And he's like, are you shitting me? Are you freaking kidding me? And he's all mad drinking, and I was like, oh my god. So yeah. So
was there ever any like credible threat on his life that when you were with him?
Man, at first I didn't believe it, but I had to convince myself there was and act like it. And but one night he said, Jimmy, they're circling the house, 2 black SUVs, and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, here we go, another night. And I remember looking outside, and I saw this SUV go by. And like coincidence. And then I saw another black SUV go by. And then I saw both go by at the same time, real slow, and circling the block over and over and over. And I thought that was really strange. And I started to see a lot of that all the time. And I also saw people come into the house and meet with John McAfee that were supposedly CIA guys. I think there was a lot going on that I didn't know about. As much as I think I knew, there was aspects that he kept totally hidden from me, and some weird stuff, weird stuff.
How much money was he worth at his height?
At his height, I would say close to $1 billion.
Wow.
But towards the end, who knows? I know that we were constantly going to banks and setting up trust funds. He said that he was only worth $4 million, and it was a brilliant ploy, because the reason why he said that was to get people to stop suing him.
Right.
He says, as soon as I started telling the media I only had $4 million, people stopped suing me.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's crazy how people like him and Howard Hughes and a lot of these other wealthy guys become such recluses. And
who though can you trust?
Well, but in their own mind, they don't even live in a life, because they're in their own mind, they're scared of every freaking thing that happens. And if he had a bunch of shit on Hillary Clinton, he had every reason probably to be. Well, hell, he ended up fucking dead, supposedly. So
I've guarded a few of these guys, and there's a common trait, not all, but there's a common trait. Just like you said, they become so reclusive, and you would think John McAfee would be staying by the beach in a multi-million-dollar compound. Instead, he's got a large compound, a large piece of land, guard dogs, and a bunch of guards. But he'd rather spend his money on his security.
Yeah.
Just, all these guys with assault rifles and stuff, paying him a bunch of money. He would rather. He said, nothing is worth it when your life is in jeopardy. He goes, I would rather live like this than glamming it up on the news and on a beach somewhere.
Did he have any hobbies?
Yeah. When you said that's funny. He was he could pretty much do about anything. He like, for instance, we'd walk by a pool table and he would do this phenomenal pool trick, just blow you away. We're looking at a house to buy, and he does it for the real estate agent on this random guy's pool table. Sit this ball over here. Sit this ball right here. He'd also do card tricks, magic tricks. He could take a deck of cards, put them behind his back, and take any card out through the whole deck, one at a time. Take a card out and then tell you exactly what it was, no matter what. You could shuffle it, whatever. He would do this all day, for an hour. And he also played the most beautiful classic music you could ever imagine. Randomly drunk, completely drunk. He would do this, on the hotel piano, and in the corridor there. He had the world record. He says he does, and I believe it, in flying kites, flying a kite as high as you can. This guy would literally tie reel after reel after reel of rope together, and then put nobody's gonna believe this. When we were in North Carolina, he literally put a kite in the air so high. It was so high, and it was staying there. It was lightning around us. I told him, dude, let's get out of here, sir. He's like, shut up, boy. And so he had this kite, a freaking F-16. Like 30 minutes later, came and circled it like super slow, like this, for a long time. And where were we, Florida or North Carolina? I don't know. But he would just leave these kites. He would tie it off and leave it. And I was like, sir, I don't think you can do that. It's dangerous. And this kite would be like, it would be a massive kite.
Right.
You know, and he said he had to go to the out in the ocean on a boat to do the world record, but a 747 called it in and they had to take it down before he could actually get the actual record. I don't know. Sound legit.
Yeah, you know, you're going to believe the guy. So what ended up happening to where you got into trouble?
What happened here? What happened? We kind of had a misunderstanding, a falling out, and so I kind of left. I was glad I left when I did, but we had kind of a falling out argument, and about a year later, he gets arrested. And the FBI come knocking on my door, or knocking on my parents' door and everything else. And I simply just wasn't answering any mail. Mm-hmm. I had already been through a tremendously difficult time with the FBI. And so for this to happen again to me was just too coincidental. And I didn't know exactly what it was about, but I knew that it was obviously in connection with John McAfee. John was arrested overseas while I was trying to go to Turkey or somewhere in the Spaniard airport. And so when he was put in prison, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to continue to live abroad, and I'm going to go on a sabbatical. And I was pretty much fed up with life. I had a lot of money, and was doing Muay Thai in Thailand, Koh Samui, Koh Phangan, living all over the place, all over the world, and but it wasn't fun. I was kind of because I just had this terrible feeling that my life was going to come to a screeching halt,
right, and
that I was being watched and all this stuff. I had picked up that paranoid bug that Mr. McAfee had, and so I wasn't answering mail. I wasn't able to anyways. I was overseas, and the FBI always likes to consider this as running from them, you know. And so I went home to gather my things to go to Bali, and I was going to go to a non-extraditionary country. And I went home to see my mom for a couple days, and was just, blasted by the FBI. About 15 FBI got me. I was coming back. I was drinking coffee with my mom. I was about to leave, had my passport, had all this stuff in line. I was leaving America forever. I was so sick and tired of the way our country has come down to. And then I'm just arrested all of a sudden with pretty big force. But they didn't really know what it was about. They just knew that it was in connection to John McAfee, and I was a prior SEAL. And so I was arrested with pretty brute force, and then the Texas judge, though, they wanted to keep me in prison, and the charges were conspiracy, money laundering, with cryptocurrency, wire fraud, and I actually had to literally look up all these charges can you imagine you're all of a sudden you get charged with like money laundering, wire fraud, conspiracy, and you're going, right. What? You're like, you got to look this stuff up. You got to research it out. Like, okay, what is it? And I kept asking my lawyer, now what did I do? What are they saying I did? And they charged me with the exact same things as John McAfee, and which I believe was to squeeze me. They even told me personally, Jimmy, we don't care about you. Who am I? Nobody compared to John McAfee. So they wanted to squeeze me no matter what to get to him, and they put 8 big charges on me, and it was for cryptocurrency touting, basically kind of like an insider trading. And I can honestly say and truthfully say that, and I'm vulnerable, man. I let it out. If people are following me on social media, I blast myself all the time. But really, honestly, I literally at the time had no idea that what I was doing was going to be considered so freaking illegal. with John McAfee as far as because when I got there, I came right from the SEALs. And so he's like a commander, so to speak, in the teams. And he's telling me, hey, research this cryptocurrency and give me the top 3 you got out there. And he would do that. And then he would mention them on his Twitter platform, with 1 million followers, 75% of them doing what he said. And so I was doing this one. And then I thought, wait a second, I'm an idiot. Why? Like, I'm almost broke here. And, why haven't I put $500 into this thing, And I even went to him one time. I said, sir, will you invest my $500 in about slap? He says, no, what are you talking about? You got to do things yourself, boy. And so I end up learning cryptocurrency, investing myself in the same coins he's mentioning, and they don't like when you do that. And so, but then John McAfee is found dead in his prison cell, and while I'm on house arrest for 1.5 years, pending trial, and they dismissed the case.
So what's illegal about him saying, hey, you need to invest in Litecoin or whatever?
So John McAfee was highly against the regulations of modern day banks, and he even did the calculations like how long you spend in a bank every day or every year, and it was weeks or in your lifetime, right? He hated the banks, and he was a huge proponent of decentralized transactions, just peer to peer. You and me. Why can't I give you cash without you having to report it to the government and all kinds of stuff? He was super against that, libertarian, right? And so it was from my understanding that cryptocurrency was there was no rules or regulation at the time, and there was nothing saying that you had to tell people that you were invested in that currency at the time. Now with stocks and bonds, yes, that's illegal, but there were no rules yet in cryptocurrency, and that doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it wrong, but I think like Trump has said even about his taxes, like, yes, did he go through some loopholes? Yeah, but make some rules and I'll follow the rules. And but they didn't like that answer from me, and there were no rules at the time on that. As far as I know, with having to tell, their biggest thing was that he should have told his viewership that he was investing in the coins that he was saying, but you have to think, like, of course he's
telling other people to invest in it. Why would he not be invested in it?
Like, exactly. But now they've made rules. If you notice now, if you follow cryptocurrency stuff, which I don't have anything to do with it now, but if you follow them now, you'll notice on their videos they'll be like, now I just want to tell you real quick that I have. I am heavily invested in this cryptocurrency, before, like, well, yeah, no joke you are, but McAfee's theory was that, does Michael Jordan tell you before he does a Nike commercial, does he tell you that he's getting paid $1 million to do this? No, you he is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it's always crazy because, like, whenever something new comes out like cryptocurrency, like, of course there's going to be people that, there's going to be laws that come up, retroactively, but you shouldn't be able to I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Well, like, when it's a brand new, when you're brand new on this brand new frontier. Yeah, of course there's going to be things that are like, oh, okay, well, like, yeah, that maybe we shouldn't do it like that, but you shouldn't be able to just completely railroad a guy.
No, if
when there were no rules,
or regulations, it should be open.
Right.
Here's the thing with John McAfee: if he would not have had a bunch of shit on a bunch of politicians, John McAfee would have never been a candidate for them to follow and the FBI watch. FBI is not watching other billionaires. I promise you right now. The Koch brothers or whatever their name's in Wichita, Kansas, they're not doing that. Yeah, because they're not. They don't have a bunch of hidden shit on politicians and crap. Every billionaire in the United States that's in business or industry, I don't care who it is, has given money to a political campaign for a favor. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
John McAfee was probably leveraging some of the shit he knew against the Clintons. Well, and that's why he ended up dead.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're absolutely right. And I even told the FBI when they brought me in, I said, guys, I'm sorry. I don't trust you anymore. I'm sorry. We've been great friends for so many years now. They're like, Jimmy, what are you talking about? I said, check it out. Check it out. The same thing is exactly what you just said. The same thing for Blackwater. There was no regulations on contractors at the time.
Right.
But I'm part of this big Nisour Square now thing. Now they jump over the Constitution. They create their own rules. They bypass the media. I mean, it was when this first happened to me, my lawyer said, Jimmy, you have nothing to worry about. It's not possible. There's no way in this world that they can go after you as a contractor and charge you with old violence with a machine gun, 1920s rules back in the state, the federal court, because there haven't been any laws established yet, but there could be now.
Right.
But you can't retroactively go back and do this. Well, they did to me.
Yeah.
And it lasted for years. And then all of a sudden I'm back in the limelight with the FBI, and I said, I'm sorry, I just don't trust y'all anymore, because I've been part of two major incidences, politically driven incidences, and it seems like something's wrong here. And they said, well, we have bad apples in the FBI sometimes, but we promise you this is unrelated.
Yeah, bullshit.
I said, I don't know, man. I don't know. So anyways, it is what it is now. But yeah, absolutely, there's billionaires giving all kinds of money to campaigns. There's all kinds of corruption. And look at Dinesh D'Souza, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, wasn't he one of the first ones to ever go to jail for that kind of contribution, a small contribution to the political party? It's just weird how such a blind eye is turned to such evil and corruption, but the magnifying glass is turned on to the nobodies or the people that are just doing this, Russia collusion.
Right.
There's no Russia collusion.
The January
and now we're funding Ukraine. You talk about Ukraine collusion.
Yeah, January 6th, those people went to jail, got no sort of constitutional rights given to them, none. Locked up in a jail cell, couldn't talk to nobody. That's complete bullshit in the United States of America. That's Gestapo bullshit. And that has been happening now. Then, just last month, the Democrat, one of them fucking goofy squad bitches, whatever one of their names is, has the people do the insurrection in there. They don't do shit to him. Guy pulls a fire alarm and disrupts a vote. They don't do nothing to him. Kid writes a meme about Hillary Clinton and has to go to prison for 6 years. It's all the whole government, every fucking politician we have. I'm not going to say every one of them, because there's probably some new ones that are new. But if you've been in Washington, D.C. more than 5 or 6 years, you're corrupt as shit. I saw where...
No, brother, I'm so glad you are saying that, because, it's like today you see a lot of people are deceived. They're like, hey, F Democrats, man. And it's like, dude, you don't understand that it's Republican and Democrat. Right. It's the swamp. And that's why, I don't look at Trump as Jesus the Savior, but I'll tell you what we need. My dad, a Texas judge, preacher, very wise man, he always said, son, we need a businessman to run the country.
Yep. And
he is all business. And he's not a politician. He turns down money so he doesn't have to owe favors. And you can just tell. Hence the vehement persecution. People hate that.
Yeah.
The lady that's in New York that's prosecuting him, their attorney general or whoever it is.
Yeah.
She makes $150,000 a year. She did her financial report. She lied on an application for real estate, which she's trying to say he broke the law because he said that the bank that loaned him some money wrote down Mar-a-Lago's worth $18 million. He borrowed $18 million, paid him back plus interest. They're happy. Well, now she's a real estate mogul and she knows more than he knows. She cheated on an application. He didn't cheat. She did. The bank okayed it. But here's the thing that's funny. She's now worth about $15 million. So how did she become worth $15 million in the last 3 or 4 years? Because George Soros or somebody is paying her ass. It's exactly what it's
Brother.
like. Now, I want to ask you, I got a John McAfee question. Did you ever get to meet any of these other billionaires, or did he not hang out with any of these other wealthy people?
He rarely hung out. The only people that he hung out with, believe it or not, were billionaire Russian oligarchs, and that's about it. He didn't really hang out with anybody. He didn't trust anyone. He just didn't trust anyone.
Was he disappointed when his presidential campaign, because he ran as libertarian twice, right? Was that something that he was serious about, or was this just trying to, piss people off?
Oh, he was a visionary, and he was absolutely serious about it. Everything that he did. Let me tell you something. I wrote the McAfee Black Book. My top 10, top 20 Black McAfee quotes, and one of his was he had a no bluff policy, and he told me, son or boy, he said, boy, and I'm like, how much is he paying me? Okay, what I gotta do? What I gotta do here for some money? He said, boy or son, he says, never, ever, ever bluff, because the second you bluff somebody, they know somehow, and once you get called out, you lose your word, you lose your steam. I'm telling you, that guy, he didn't bluff. What he said is what he meant. And so by knowing him, that standard, I know he was serious about being a libertarian president. And man, he just had that good old common sense.
Yeah.
Like Trump does.
Yeah. I wouldn't have been against him. We need a business person.
Anybody that's a billionaire, I can't stand Mark Cuban. I think he's a liberal fucking twat waffle, but he's a very successful man and a billionaire and a business guy. So even if Mark Cuban was president, at least you got some common sense when it comes to business. These fucking politicians that we have today, every one of them, other than Trump, every one of them's a fucking politician. All they are is attorneys. Most every one of them's a fucking attorney that's gotten either his place given to him. There's very few of them that have had to work to where they are as a politician. They were handed it down as a favor. Oh, let's run Jim over there. He went to Yale with me. He knows my sister. His daughter works for me at CBS. It's all that shit all the time. And that's where we're in the situation we're in. Nobody is doing that job. It's not a sacrifice to them. When politicians first come around, it was a sacrifice. Like, fuck, I got to go to Washington, D.C. for 2 months. I got to do all this business. I've got farming I need to do. I've got a business here to run, but I'm going to do this. And I'm only serving 2 terms and I'm done because I got shit to do with my life. Well, nowadays, it's not that way. It's to them, that's their career. We're going to get rich. We're going to fuck them out of this and fuck them out of that. And what they're doing is they're fucking the American taxpayers, what they're doing over and over and over again, and we just let it happen. Just and the Epstein thing has been the one that has just blown my mind, that the media has not gotten behind these kids and want an answer to this shit. Well, there should be some answers from the FBI. We go to Mar-a-Lago and we can fucking do that in the middle of the night, and everybody else that Trump's a witch hunt on, but we cannot go and find out who an Epstein client was, not even one. Because everyone that's making the decisions are the ones that are corrupt.
And this is almost sacrilegious when I say this, and people are like, "What?" But I've said this multiple times. I called the Biden Trump campaign. Everybody thought Trump was going to win. Everybody, they were cheering in the street, and then all of a sudden Biden wins, and you're going, "What?" And I'll tell you right now, I would not be surprised if Trump does not get it this time. As crazy as that might sound, but I have, because when you consider how corrupt and how serious the implications are, I wouldn't put it past the current administration to do anything and everything to stop this.
Yeah.
And I've called it before. I've been wrong before, but I've called it before right. And I'll tell you, I do not think I would be highly surprised if Trump.
Well, they're
gets
playing
it.
for their
It's
life. They're
crazy
playing for
that-
their livelihood.
Yeah, they're going to all get locked up.
If Trump wins, he's coming for blood this time.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah,
And I pray he does. But from what I've seen, they're able to pull out the stops.
But there's no way Biden can go another 4 years, though, right? You've seen the guy on television.
how do you know that's
There's
even
no
him?
way. I don't think it's going to be Biden. I just think that they're going to pull some weird because they're going to see how bad they're losing. They already
think
do.
It's Newsom. I think if you see what Newsom has done, kind of the shift that he's made, he's everywhere now. He's over in China, knocking little Chinese boys over and then wrestling them on the ground in a basketball game, and I think it's going to be Newsom.
He's not their answer, though.
I think it's him.
Biden is the perfect answer for them because he's a fucking puppet. I mean, he is a puppet. He don't know what he's going on. And I actually defended him the other day. Somebody said, that fucking Biden, blah, blah. I go, it's not Biden. That dumb bastard don't even know if he's shitting in his pants or eating Fruit Loops. He has no clue what's going on.
Yeah.
So he's a puppet for them. This is how bad it is. In 1963, we had a president got murdered, assassinated by our CIA. The CIA has been running things since then. George W. Bush, George Bush Sr. was fucking head of the CIA. Then he had Dick Cheney was a vice president, ex-CIA. They're running things, and they are right now. They did not expect Donald Trump to win that first election. That was not supposed to happen. Someone got him to cancel all the votes. Tucker Carlson just came out this week and said Donald Trump cost the CIA billions and billions of dollars, and that's why he wasn't president. They wanted him out. I believe him. I really do. They're going to do everything they can. In a fair election, Donald Trump wins very easy.
Oh, absolutely. In a fair election, he wins. What do you guys think? I agree with you. That's exactly what I think. I think that in a fair election, he would in a fair election this is how serious the repercussions are. In a fair election, we win it. Russia would not have gone into Ukraine. In a fair election, Hamas would not be doing this with Israel right now.
Right.
And in a fair election, Afghanistan pullout wouldn't have been what it is. And all this other ridiculous circus stuff that we see today.
Didn't you say recently that Biden released a bunch of guys that are boots on the ground over in Israel right now? He released their identity?
Man, yeah, that's exactly right. Biden literally released photos of our Delta Force guys, which are actually called CAG or ACE, whatever you want to call them, but we'll just say Delta Force here. He released photos of them in Israel, and this goes against every single bit of just strategy 101. It's like if we're playing chess or checkers, whatever. It's like, hey, I'm going to move here. You should move your thing here first to destroy me. It literally makes no sense to telegraph your moves in a UFC fight. It doesn't make sense to telegraph your moves in anywhere else in this world. So you have the underlying agenda here, and whether they know it or not, is to tell the enemy everything we do beforehand, and just appease politically on like you're doing something. Like, we got Delta Force over here. But really what you're doing is, and this is how serious the implications are. Who cares about the Delta Force operators? Like I always get kind of mad at that. I'm like, dude, no, I joined to die. I joined the SEALs to die. Like, don't make a mistake. Don't go join the SEALs and not expect to die or get injured. You're going to get injured and you might die. So I joined the SEALs to die. Okay. What I mean is, like, okay, if I live, great. If I die, great, better. Right. It's a weird mentality. So it's not the Delta operators. Their lives are not in danger. What's going to happen if you walk out of the bank in the movie Heat with a hockey mask on, with smoke everywhere, and Hamas catches you? You're going to jail. You're going to get tortured and die. So they don't need your identification from Biden for that. So forget that. But what's so freaking bad about this is that up until then, we only hear rumors and speculate and assume that Delta Force or special operators are going to Israel. But if I'm Hamas and I see Delta Force on the ground in Israel, I'm like, hey, everyone, stop communications immediately. Start moving continuously the hostages around, or kill them and move away from them immediately.
Right.
So there's nothing good and only bad that can come out of this when you give off the identities of Delta Force.
Yeah. And the hostages are way more at risk now.
Way more at risk. If you saw me and my homeboys coming at you, and we're just a couple miles away, and you see pictures of that from the White House on the White House Instagram, you're gonna pop the hostages and roll out.
Run.
Yeah, or cease all communication and just get really and move them.
Yeah. Is it hard going over there because, like, you know, they don't respect life over there. They'll use women and children as human shields, and like over here in America, you know, we kind of we protect our women and we protect our children, and then over there you see them as just they're just a means to an end, basically.
Yeah, and the biggest problem I see with liberals or the left, or whatever you want to call them, and a lot of people, is that they can't. And I don't blame them for this, because they're so naive that they can't possibly imagine the actual evil that can come from another human being. They can't imagine, and this is not censored, on your channel, thank God. But I mean, if you could stomach this, when I was in Iraq, there was a patrol of Army guys on the street. They saw a little baby that was laying out in the middle of the street. They go there and they're blown to smithereens because they put either not a 155, but a massive explosive charge inside the kid.
Wow.
They killed the kid, kidnapped the kid. This is their own people.
Right.
Okay. Kidnapped their kid, put an explosive charge in the kid, lay him out on the street because they know no one's going to turn this opportunity down to go help the kid.
Right.
And then they blow the soldiers up. This is the mentality.
And that's what we're fighting over there. And that's what we're going to put rules of engagement around.
Did you see what happened yesterday? The guy was throwing rocks at the Israelis' tanks, throwing rocks, fucking clipped his ass. Right. People are raising hell about that. There's got to be another way to handle it. No, that motherfucker throws a rock for 3 days in a row and they just ignore him. And then the next thing you know, he's throwing a fucking hand grenade or something at him and kills some of the people. Don't fucking throw rocks. It's pretty simple, you know? But we got the biggest bunch of pussies in our media, in our country, and they don't like that. And it's bullshit to have rules of engagement. The last war we tried to win was World War II, and we won. And that's what we need to do now. If we're going to have our guys fighting over there, that's why I hate fucking politicians. You either let them go over there and fight and kick ass and come home, or don't send them over there. Don't
send them over there if we're not willing to do what it really takes.
We don't have the stomach to do what it's going to take to win the damn war, you know? But that's the way I feel about it. If we're not going to fight, let our guys fight, bring them all home. I'm for bringing troops from all over the fucking over the world, fucking burn all their shit down, all the equipment, leave it there, but burn the shit down where it's not usable, bring everybody home, put fucking troops on our borders on both sides, lock our country down, and be the end of it. Let them fuckers fight each other over and over, give them nuclear weapons that'll shoot 2 miles, they'll blow each other's asses up, and be done with it.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think that we left all this stuff in Afghanistan. And I was thinking, with our technology and imagery, okay, the Bagram airfield, we could have dropped. Okay, this is what's crazy is we left all this equipment. Okay, we all know that billions of dollars. Okay, these guys had to come pick this equipment up.
Right.
We still have satellite imagery and drones. We couldn't have blown them away when they came and got our stuff, at least
yeah.
And then they say they dismantled it or whatever. And come on, the Viet Cong turned these freaking AT-4 rocket just plastic tubes into massive explosives, like explosions, booby traps. They can do a lot with that stuff.
Yeah, we should got rid of every fucking thing, and anybody with any fucking common sense would do that shit. But Fucking politicians in Washington, D.C. and corrupt bureaucracy is killing our country. And we're sending our kids over to fight for this shit because them pricks and cocksuckers don't send their kids over there.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a really, really sad situation, guys. I'm hoping there's some redemption here. Sometimes I look around and I look at how far it's gone. It's our society has gone down, and the censorship. Yeah. On social media, I can't say half the stuff I want to say.
Yeah.
Or it gets taken down for community violations. For what?
Right. Yeah. And it's a slippery slope on a lot of these channels whenever you talk about anything regarding the 2020 election. It's tough, but I don't know. Where is the beacon on the hill in this world right now? If you were to leave America today, you had said you were going to go to Bali. Is Bali the place? I mean, you look around and
No.
Europe is a dumpster fire with what they've got going on. Mexico's run by the cartel. Where would you go?
That's a great question, man. And I tell you what, man, this is kind of getting philosophical on it, but I sailed the seas. I got I went and learned how to sail. Got my level 4 certification in Spain, and I remember I always thought going through the SEAL training, going through hard times in my life, all this stuff, and war. I thought, man, if I could just be on a sailboat on the ocean blue and the wind in my hair, the salt, all this stuff, it would be just this amazing experience and like a dream come true and relaxing. And it sounds amazing right now, but when I was actually on the ocean doing this, it was one of the most loneliest times of my life. And so it goes along with what my dad said. He said, happiness is never a place, son. And I've learned to realize that this is it. And I tell my Russian wife this, like she's often like, man, this place sucks, and I'm like, whoa, calm down. What if they're listening to something, geez. And she said, I thought America was free. What was going on? I said, no, it's not free. Nothing's free. What do you mean free? Anyways, she's like, she's disappointed in a way because 20 years ago, this place was the place to be. And I've been everywhere. I've lived in Thailand, Spain, Medellin, Colombia, all this stuff. And I'll tell you what, it's happiness is sure not a place. And they're all dangerous. Cartels. I lived in Tulum, Mexico for a while. And you got cartels everywhere you go. Of course, you can pay your way out of things more easily. It seems like it's a little easier to do things. But then you have the corrupt police and stuff. But this place is turning into, if not transitioning into, a third world country. And we better be freaking careful. And every time somebody subscribes to your channel right now or pushes the like button or comments, as long as we have wind in the American flag blowing, as long as we have that, we have a chance. We have some type of voice. But it's when people start to say, and I almost did this myself. I almost decided I'm freaking leaving this country. I've almost done that several times in my life. I am freaking out of here. But I chose to stay in America. I don't want to be here, but I chose to stay here and kind of fight the good fight. And so as long as people have a voice out there, or they're at minimum sharing or liking, or something out there, then we have a chance. And as crazy as that sounds, it's the truth.
Yeah. So we're gonna start wrapping up here. So you've got your frogman workouts. You got a couple different things going on. How can people subscribe to what you've got going on?
Well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate the shout out. I got at Mighty Warrior 2023, and that Mighty Warrior is telling everybody that they have a chance in this world to be a mighty warrior, and they were meant for something. They were meant to be a warrior at heart. there was a reason why you were picking up those sticks when you were a young kid running around outside, pretending like it was a gun or spear or whatever, and playing for it. And then they put you inside your house, and now you're playing Call of Duty. So we're warriors at heart, and that's my message: inspiration, motivation, and that's at Mighty Warrior 2023, and that's all across all the channels: Instagram, TikTok is my big one, and YouTube. And of course, I got my Frogman Warrior workouts, which I really believe in. But that's how you can get it through those channels.
If you want little biceps like you got, just go to the Frogman workouts, and you can get big triceps. Little what does your wife go? Biceps?
She calls them she goes biceps and triceps, and I said, what the heck are you talking about? And she said, and I noticed she called buffalo bison. And so I thought, okay, every time it's like bison, biceps, triceps, she thinks you say biceps. We're working on this stuff. She's smarter than me anyway.
Where did you meet her during your time with McAfee over in Russia?
Man, I met her when I was selling in Spain, and she just got back from Ibiza. We met, we fell in love, kisses, tickles and pickles, and then we went to Thailand and lived there for a while. And it's been a love journey, She's the best part about me, but she's Russian, man. You got to be careful with these.
Yeah, you got to watch them.
I watch Peaky Blinders. I know.
Seriously.
Yeah. Well,
what?
Have you ever seen Peaky Blinders on Netflix?
Yes.
Yeah, they deal with the Russians there. You got Tommy Shelby was always cautious of them.
You got to be careful, man. They'll kick you in the face or something crazy.
well, boy, we sure appreciate you being on here with us, boy.
Boy. It's like, okay, appreciate you guys calling me boy. It's funny, man. Yeah, I had a really great time with y'all. It was a great time to reminisce about the past.
I appreciate you. We've gone over 2 hours here. I know I told you in the original email they usually last an hour to an hour and a half, but it's been a lot of fun. I appreciate your openness about everything. So we'd love to do this again sometime.
Yeah, we sure would.
Big shout out. Yeah, I would love to come back on anytime y'all want me. And big shout out to all your fans. What a great channel you got.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it. You have a great day and have a good Thanksgiving, my friend, and be safe.
Okay, brother. Y'all too. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Very interesting man.
Cool dude.
What a cool life. Real American.
Man has lived it.
A real Texan.
That's right.
Another great Texan.
Another great Texan.
God bless the United States by making Texas part of it.
Right. Y'all are so lucky. If it weren't for Texas, you would not have any identity.
Yep. Wouldn't know what ice is.
No ice.
All right. Thank y'all for listening to us. God bless y'all. It's opening weekend of waterfowl season up here. We look forward to it. Going to be exciting. Got a lot of people. Got a lot of birds. Still have some dates left in late December. I guess a week after Christmas, I've got a couple of dates left. I still got some Nebraska and Texas in January. Holler at me. Thank you. God bless y'all. Peace.
Okay, boys and girls, you need to go check out all of our great sponsors. Go check out Hemp Hill Farms. Help with those ouchies. CBD, it's the way to go. Alpha Outdoor Specialties, Mossberg, Stanfield Outfitters, Double T British Kennels, Lucky Duck, Ducks Unlimited, Shin Gear, Looking Glass Podcast, Dive Bomb Industry, Dirty Duck Coffee, Boss Shot Shells, Pacific Calls, and MLR Graphics.